Remember when Sony fanboys said that the Xbox Series X had no exclusives at launch? You'd be hard-pressed not to, given that they went on about it at length whenever they got the opportunity, and some of them are still going on about it even now. And do you remember when I said there was no reason for Spider-Man Miles Morales not to appear on the PlayStation 4, only for the fanboys to buy Sony's line and go into great detail, and in ill-informed detail, I hasten to add, about it not being able to run on the PlayStation 4 due to its increased graphical fidelity and its reliance on the unprecedented speed of the PlayStation 5's SSD. No? You don't remember that? Well, I do. And look, I'm sure the fanboys would rather forget it, and they'll now try and pivot and explain that Miles Morales coming to the PlayStation 4 is a good thing, despite saying precisely the opposite only a few short weeks ago. Of course, their new position is the correct one. It is good for PlayStation fans that Miles Morales is now coming to the PlayStation 4 as well as the PlayStation 5. It was always a good thing if it had done, and now it is. And it's good for PlayStation as well, for Sony, because they've got a much bigger install base on the PlayStation 4. So they're going to sell the game and make more money, and more people get to play it. My only caveat is that I would like them to do what Microsoft are doing and make it so if you buy the PlayStation 4 version and then you get a PlayStation 5 down the line, that version will update and you can carry on playing it without going and buying the bloody thing again. And look, they're not doing that at this stage, but given the way they've been flip-flopping recently, I'm hoping that they might introduce that, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I'm just glad that Sony have allowed this game to be on the PlayStation 4, because as I kept saying, there was absolutely no reason for it not to be on PlayStation 4. But what about Forbidden West coming to the PlayStation 4 as well? Again, I think it's a good idea. If you're going to just bump up the graphical fidelity on the PlayStation 5, why not allow it on the PlayStation 4 as well? And again, I would like to see the upgrade option for free. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to hold my breath. I am happy about this. And I don't see that being able to play the game on the PlayStation 4 is going to have any effect on those people who can get hold of a PlayStation 5. Like me, I was lucky enough to be able to order one. Why is it going to have a negative effect on me if people on the PlayStation 4 are also playing the game? I'll have the better version, but they'll be able to play it. And great, because not everyone's going to be able to go out and buy a PlayStation 5. They're not going to be able to afford it. And as I say, with the pre-order debacle, not everyone's going to even be able to get hold of one. I nearly didn't. Look, in the same way that I'm happy about all the Xbox games coming to the Xbox One, as well as the Series S and X, I'm happy about this. It was good for Xbox, and it's good for PlayStation. But, as I say, this has always been my position. I haven't changed what I feel about this depending on Sony's marketing department and what they were telling us this particular week. But here's the thing. I made a video ages ago now saying that neither the Xbox or the PlayStation 5 were going to have much in the way of exclusives at launch. And I was okay with that. Necessity dictates that it's usually the case with a new console that it doesn't have that many games at launch. And with this year's unprecedented events, the reality was, it was only going to become more stark. It was going to become more obvious that we weren't going to get many games at launch. At one point it was touch and go whether we were going to get the consoles this year. What the Sony fanboys didn't seem to grasp, with their endless crowing about the Xbox's limited roster, was that the PlayStation 5 was almost inevitably going to suffer from the same lack of exclusive content at launch because of those same issues, the same market forces. These companies don't exist in a vacuum. They exist in the real world, and market forces and COVID-19 would dictate what they could do, to some extent at least. It was all but inevitable. And I suppose this lack of insight from fanboys, whatever their colour, whether they're a Sony fanboy or an Xbox fanboy or a Nintendo fanboy or a PC Master Race guy or whatever it might be, their lack of insight is also inevitable because that's the way their blinkered mindset works. The reality is that Xbox does have a poor launch lineup. You can't get away from reality. But so does the PlayStation 5. If you're just looking at PlayStation 5 exclusives and you take away the games that are on PS4 and PC and the rest of it, the launch lineup isn't that much better than the Xbox Series X and S. And look, if I'm being honest, there's no real incentive for anyone to buy any of the consoles from either of the companies. Certainly not if you already own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Yeah. But look, some of the Sony fanboys are really annoyed. Miles Morales and Horizon Forbidden West coming to the PlayStation 4. That's somehow a bad thing to them because, they have less to crow about now? Because now the PlayStation looks similar to the Xbox on launch without very many games? Have they finally come to the realization that these market forces and business realities affect Sony just as much as they do Microsoft? But does any of this actually hurt them? I'll give you a clue. No. In fact, with most of the games on both platforms being made available on either last generation's machines or on PC, gamers are in a position where they can genuinely decide to wait. To wait and spend their money when there are more compelling games or when the prices come down a little. Or even when there's a compelling bundle or a special edition console. Something that really makes you want to own that console. A special edition, we've seen the mock-ups of the Xbox Series X. And those things, if they produce something like that, then there's a really good reason to go out and buy the console at that point. This isn't something to be mad about. It's just reality. If you've got a bottomless pit of money and you're a Sony or Microsoft shareholder looking to make a quick buck, then okay, maybe you're going to lose some money in the short term or something. But if you're prepared to hang around for the long haul as a shareholder, or if you're prepared to wait as a gamer, none of these things are really hurting you, are they? You don't need the console at launch, do you? You really don't lose if the games you've bought for the PlayStation 5 are coming to the PlayStation 4. That's just the way it is. And if you're someone who is going to go out and buy a PlayStation 5 or you've already got your pre-order in, then great, enjoy it. But don't go and tell me that because your family and friends have the PlayStation 4 and Miles Morales is coming out on that as well, somehow you're losing out. The argument was the same for the Xbox as it is for the PlayStation, as I keep saying. The games are going to come onto the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 will have the better edition, the better version with better graphics and all the rest of it. Same with the Xbox. The Series X will have a better version of the game, but you'll still be able to play them on the other consoles. And in no way are you being hurt by that happening. If you think that is the case, if you think somehow you're losing out because Spider-Man and Forbidden West are coming to the PlayStation 4, explain it to me. Why is it a problem for you? Go on, tell me. Why is it a problem for you? Is it because you want to crow about, I've got these new great exclusives and Xbox hasn't got any? Is that all it's all about? Because if it is, then you need to get yourself a life. Just get your console. If you've got a PlayStation 4, enjoy it. If you get a PlayStation 5, enjoy it. And stop getting wrapped up in all this bloody nonsense. As I think I already touched on, it's going to be years before we see a whole load of new games coming to any of the new consoles. It's going to be a long haul. And as I said before, this is nothing new. It's just reality. But maybe that's why fanboys don't like it. After all, reality is never their strong suit. But while we're on the subject of reality, just let me add this. Sony will have compelling exclusives coming to the PlayStation 5 down the line. And I fully expect the Xbox to have some of their own as the new studios bring their games to the platform as well. So we've got a lot to look forward to. For now, though, and this isn't going to be a popular opinion with some people, I actually think that the backwards compatibility on the Xbox Series X make it the more compelling console out of the 4 on offer at Christmas. Simply because that means it has a huge and ready-to-play library on day one. And as I say, these games are going to look better. That's not something that can be said for the PlayStation 5. We're getting PlayStation 4 games, but it's a little bit confusing as to which games are going to work and which games aren't going to work. And, every time we hear something from Sony, the message is different. And we do know now that we're certainly not getting PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games. So you can write that one off. And look, the reason I say the Series X and not the Series S is because I do think that the S is a compelling console in many respects, and mainly because of the cost. But the fact that it isn't going to offer the full fat backwards compatible experience with the upscaling and all the other stuff that Microsoft are offering on the X makes it a little bit less attractive to me personally. And there's other reasons as well. It hasn't got disk drive and all the rest of it. But just with the backwards compatibility thing, I think the Series X, well, it's a real good console for that. On paper, at least. And if it does anything like what the Xbox One X did with backwards compatibility, then it's pretty much going to be a no-brainer for anyone who's got a large library of older Xbox games. And if that's the case, then that's fine. And if it is the case, then the S might be the console to go for, especially given the price differential. After all, at $299, it's dollars that is, and I think $249 in pounds, that's incredible. And when you factor in the all access scheme that Microsoft are offering, I think it's something like 22, 23 quid for the S. But look, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely convinced that the PlayStation 5 will be a great console. And that's why I've pre-ordered one. I put my money where my mouth is. I just think it's going to be a while before it's really going to be worth owning. And, for me, I've got a YouTube channel and I can unbox it and I can talk about it on my channel. I can make some help videos about how to get things running and all the rest of it. So it's worth it for me on one level, even though, it's still costing me money to buy it. But for most people, until we get those signature exclusives, then it's probably the sensible thing to hold off. And I would say that with the Xbox as well. It's true for both consoles. It was the same with the PlayStation 4. That took about 2 years to hit its stride. The only difference this time around is that Microsoft might hit their stride in around 2 years' time as well, when some of these new games start coming online. We've got these new studios. As I think I said this the other day, but you don't buy all those studios and just have them sit on their hands. I know they did that with Rare, but I think Microsoft are a slightly different organization than they were back then. And when you factor in things like Game Pass, I do think that unless you're already a Sony owner, and if you're already a PlayStation 4 owner, then the PlayStation 5 is going to look very attractive to you, assuming most of the games are backwards compatible from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5. Then obviously, it's going to look very attractive to you. But for everyone else, I think the Xbox at launch looks like slightly, and only slightly, the better option. Again, though, look, these things aren't bad for us as gamers, because we're starting to see there's some real competition. And not just real competition, but real differentiation between the two main players in the gaming arena. And they are the two main players at this stage. Other than obviously Nintendo, and they always dance to their own tune anyway, so it's a different argument. For now, though, as far as I can see, the sensible among us, that's not me, they'll hold off, and they won't pre-order. They'll wait. Because frankly, there isn't really a compelling reason to own the new consoles. Not yet. And that was always the case. As the French say, and I'm going to murder this, but as the French say, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. New console launches are nearly, because there have been some exceptions, but are nearly always like this. Owning them at the beginning is not really worth it. But anyway, look, that's what I think. You guys, as ever, may completely disagree with me. And if you do, let me know in the comments. And while you're writing your comment, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell. Please hit the bell. God, I hate doing this, but YouTube are murdering us small guys. They will try and tell you that they're not, but they are. We are being crushed under the weight of all the bigger YouTubers and all the rest of it. And if you hit the bell, you'll be doing me a huge favour. And share it as well. If you think this is a good video, share it with your friends and get them to come in the comments and we can have a chat. Because I do, if you're a regular to my channel, you know that I always try and get in the comments and talk to you. And yeah. Anyway, look, that's me done. I'm going to go and grab myself a cup of tea. And I will speak to you in the next one. Bye.